Would you mind introducing yourself for everybody?
Hey, I'm Joshua Rosas. Um, I'm a farmer here in the Houston area. I farm a little bit west of Katy in Brookshire, um, in a amenity farm, kind of like an Agrihood. Yeah,
Oh, it's an Agrihood.
yeah. So, have you ever heard of Harvest Green out in like Richmond?
Man, I went there and met Scott.
Yeah,
Yeah, I went and met Scott Snodgrass. Did I say it right?
yeah. That's
Yeah.
it.
I
Yeah,
went and met him out there one time.
he's my boss.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool.
So so I manage another farm. We're within the same company, but we're out in the, like I said, like Brookshire area in a subdivision called Jordan Ranch.
Jordan Ranch. Okay. I didn't know that's where it was. That's dope. How long have you been doing that?
Uh, so the farm is going on its second year now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we took it from essentially like an empty field and turned it into a farm. So it was really fun. Yeah, really great experience, kind of taking something from just nothing,
Right.
and making it into a productive farm.
So how big is the space where you farm?
So we're 3/4 of an acre in kind of diversified vegetables, and then we have about another 3/4 of an acre in like berries and fruit trees. So kind of like an acre and a half in total, but that's including like infrastructure that's on the on that land. We have a high tunnel that's included in that as well. So we're pretty small, you know, kind of like that market gardening scale.
Yeah. But I've seen you on IG, man. I see all of the like the big pots of food that you put out, man. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so we try to be pretty like biointensive there, especially here in the last, couple months. We've really been trying to focus on putting as much in the beds as possible, a lot of intercropping, reducing like spacing size. We've been playing with that a little bit, experimenting, and yeah, things have, seemed to be working like pretty well. I mean,
Yeah.
we're pretty productive. Uh, you know, without recording like every single thing, just because it's as busy as we are, sometimes we don't get to recording everything. But within the last month, May, we pulled a little over 1,000 pounds of food out of that space.
Yeah.
Uh, so that felt really good because that was the first time we really like tried to document as much as we could of like what we were pulling out, and yeah, we passed over the 1,000 pound mark there.
Dang, that's great. So how has the farm, I guess, improved from year one to year two?
Yeah, so uh, drainage has definitely improved. Um, you know, as you know, here in kind of this part of Texas, we're pretty much just straight clay.
Yeah.
We we were working with like a piece of land that maybe was previously like a dump site for like construction out there because we're in a neighborhood. So we do actually have a decent amount of sand kind of scattered throughout, and we have the farm sectioned out into quadrants, and a couple of the quadrants are pretty sandy. So we drain out better there, but drainage was kind of like an issue, but we've been really working on that and seen a lot of improvements. Um, for the most part, we're pretty minimal disturbance. We don't use a rototiller there.
Okay.
So, I wouldn't say we're technically no-till, but we're very minimal till or very minimal disturbance. And I think that's helped improve the soil quite a bit.
Yeah, I think the concept or the idea behind no till, I think it sounds great, and I think it works great for like the farm at your house or your backyard garden. But I think when you get onto like a bigger scale, it's probably a lot harder to do no till.
Right. Yeah, and it's, listening to a lot of other podcasts from other farmers, I think trying to switch from, tillage to no-till is pretty difficult as well. But sometimes you have to disturb the soil, you have to break it up, especially here with this clay, so you can give the roots, that space to grow,
Right.
because they can just get stuck, a couple inches down, you can have, a really hard pan of soil.
Yeah. Yeah, I know about that. Um, how were you first introduced to gardening? Like, did you grow up gardening?
I did not. My I'm kind of a couple generations removed from anyone gardening. My great grandmother and my great grandfather, on my father's side or my mother's side, at least, I think they were gardeners. I hear stories. You know, they grew their own food, they saved their own seeds, raised some animals. But I never saw that. And so, yeah, I mean, gardening, farming is a pretty recent thing for me,
Yeah.
and it was just really born out of, I was working like in a clinic setting, and it was rewarding, great job, but I just needed to get out.
Right.
Kind of that. I just need to be outside, work with my hands, and I found a local farm that needed some like farm hands, field work, and I just kind of hopped in and took the jump, and then just fell in love with it from there.
How long ago was that?
So that was about 3.5, almost 4 years ago now.
Okay.
So
Okay.
pretty like recent farmer.
Okay. Are you happy you made the switch?
I definitely, yeah, I love it. Love my job. Wake up every day, excited to go to the farm and, grow food, take
Yeah.
food, pick weeds.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, so earlier you said you've been kind of playing with the spacing and interplanting, right? Are you
Yeah,
noticing that some of the I guess the recommendations for spacing of certain plants isn't necessary?
yeah, I would say that. I don't think that it's. I mean, to a degree,
Right.
you put like crops right on top of each other, of course, but like we've been I've always grown until this previous year, like something like a cucumber. You usually give cucurbits like a lot of space. I had previously been doing them like every 2 feet, single row. And so, here lately we've been reducing that down to a foot even, really packing them in, focusing on trellising things up. And then we've been intercropping underneath the cucumbers as well to really fill out the bed. Um, things have been growing decently well. The focus is to get something like that main crop really producing. So something like the cucumber, really producing, and then intercrops to fill out the bed, whether that's like scallions or beets or carrots underneath, and we try to get as much out of those intercrops as we can. But if you're getting that main crop and then you're getting some stuff from underneath, it feels like pretty successful.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. What variety of cucumbers are y'all growing out there this year?
So, we kind of move. Houston, gets pretty hot pretty quick. So as soon as the frost is done in the greenhouse, we're starting, kind of the more desirable tender cucumbers. Those are like Persian varieties,
Uh-huh.
um, Japanese varieties, and then we kind of move into like the Suyo Japanese cucumbers, which take the heat a little bit better, and then we're kind of starting our minions in the greenhouse now. So which are technically like a melon, but they handle the heat great. Taste like a cucumber, and yeah, we've been. I really enjoy Kitazawa Seed Company. I
I
like
don't
to
know
kind
them.
of look through. I like to look through there, and they have a lot of like great Asian varieties. really tasty stuff. And so we grew a few varieties from there this year.
What's the name of the seed company?
Kitazawa.
Write that down. So
Yeah, really great. I mean, they're pretty diversified in their seed catalog. So, I mean, you can go season to season to season with them. And they have a great selection of like Southeast Asian varieties that, do well here in the Houston area.
Yeah.
They have like a good selection of bitter melons, loofahs, like heat tolerant greens.
Okay.
They're really great. They're a really great seed company to check out for here.
All right, I'm gonna check them out. How many people work on the farm with you?
So currently it's me and another farm manager. So just us two kind of managing that. We do not your typical 9 to 5, but we don't stray from that too much. We each probably put in at least like 45, 50 hours a week there. And it works out pretty well. Between the both of us, we kind of taper off and, do things that are like probably better suited, individually, that we take care of. And yeah, it's worked out really well. The farmer I work with, she's fantastic, really skilled, has farmed like kind of all over the country. She's, at least a decade into farming. And she just has knowledge, skills, and like all types of, arenas of farming. So yeah, we're a pretty quiet crew,
Yeah.
A lot of times like we don't even talk to each other. We're just like handling things, and then we come together here and there and talk about what we've been doing. But yeah, we work pretty like fluidly, and yeah, I think two people can, working hard can manage, an acre and a half pretty well.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question right there. You beat me to it. So yeah, you think two people, they can handle an acre and a half, no problems?
I think maybe I wouldn't say no problem. Sure. I think if we had like another person, maybe like a part-time farmer there, I think that would work out great too. I think, now that we're kind of not necessarily post-COVID, but things are starting to get somewhat back to normal. We're starting to kind of have individuals or small groups of people familiar with each other to come out and like do volunteer work.
Okay.
And I think that would really help too. So if we didn't necessarily have like another person, that off and on like volunteer work would also kind of help, with some of that farm work and make it manageable for two people.
Okay. Because I've always heard 4 people, takes 4 people to kind of run an acre or do an acre. So I like when I hear that just 2 people are doing an acre and a half. I like that. Did COVID have any kind of effect on your?
Yeah. Well, so as soon as COVID started, we were really starting to produce at the farm. So we kind of did like a pivot. Instead of focusing on selling produce, we were donating produce to some local food banks.
Okay.
We had some like small farm stands within the community where we're giving people like samples of things that were coming out, with the understanding that we are going to be selling it in the future as we're doing now. And then we did a lot of donations in like conjunction with some other local farmers to help feed like out of work industry, food industry employees, and different stuff like that. We were donating to Finca Tres Robles.
Okay.
A little bit here and there. They were, they expanded their CSA so we were able to kind of supplement them, a little bit. We didn't do that all the time, but whenever we could, you know. And then, restaurant sales are kind of where I like to focus, and that really slowed down. But we kind of filled that space with, again, like donating to, people that were working in the restaurants that had like lost their jobs or, weren't getting as many hours as they were
Okay.
normally getting. So, yeah, but that was pretty rewarding. We're unique in that, we function as an amenity. So we weren't really too crippled by not having to sell as much.
Okay. Okay. So what is no, not what is. Where does the produce normally go or what is the plan for the produce that's produced
So,
on the farm?
priority for the residents within the community. So we host a couple farm stands a week. Residents can kind of come by within those hours, buy whatever they want. All the produce is available there. And then beyond that, we sell to restaurants. And
Yeah,
then, all that money comes back to the community, which is really nice.
that's cool.
And so, over the years, we've kind of developed some good relationships with restaurants and chefs. And we move a lot of produce that way. In the future, we have plans of kind of like having a self-service stand there at the farm. That's kind
Okay.
of in the works. So I wouldn't like say I could give you all the details there. We're gonna have to like figure that out. But we think that's a really great idea to like, whether we're there or not, have a system where residents can come by and purchase food and take it home. If you're making dinner at night and you need some chives, you need some scallions, you want to add a tomato, if it's in season to a dish, you can walk down to your farm in your neighborhood and open up the cooler door and grab something, pay for it, and walk back home.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. How many days a week do you do the farm stand?
So we do them 2 days a week, and that's like as of recent. We were just doing a weekend for a couple hours, but we're getting decently busy, and people have differing schedules, so we do like a Wednesday and a Saturday now.
Okay.
Yeah, Wednesday kind of later evening, Saturday in the morning to early afternoon, and that seems to be working out pretty well.
And you said the rest of the produce you try to get it or like the plan was to sell it to the chefs. How do you
Right.
get in contact with the chefs? I'm asking, let's say hypothetically somebody wants to start a new farm and they're like, "Man, I want to sell to chefs." Well, how do they go about getting their produce in front of these chefs?
So I think it's just kind of taking that confidence to pack up your produce and go to the back door of a restaurant. I think I have farmers ask me that all the time. They'll make the statement to me that's kind of like, "Oh, you have this skill to talk with chefs," and it's really not that. It's just kind of you should have like just a confidence in yourself, because the relationship that you're building with the chefs is really between you and them. It's being upfront with them. It's giving them samples of your produce, and then it's kind of understanding how each restaurant works. So we're pretty small, so I like to go to like a restaurant and meet the chef and kind of present myself that way, which is just like, we're small, we're great for like specials, like weekly specials. We do unique produce, and bring them a sample, let them taste it, and usually they kind of respond back and they're like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, we'll try something. We'll put this in a dish." And I think chefs are craving that. They're craving the relationship to the farmer, and the local produce in general. Uh, I think they like farmers coming to the back doors with boxes of fresh stuff, you
Yeah,
know.
man.
Um, and I think it's as easy as that. It's as easy as just kind of going and, you know, meeting the cooks and talking with them and letting them taste things, letting them see what you grow. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Um, do any of the chefs come out to the farm, or do they give you special requests like, hey man, I was out in, I don't know, you talked about Southeast Asia. I was out in Asia and I ate this bitter melon. Can you grow this for me?
Yeah. So, chefs come out every once in a while. I think, like farmers, they're busy,
Yeah.
So, when they can break away, they try to. Um, but yeah, I wouldn't say often, but every once in a while I get a request to grow something like unique, different, um, and that's really enjoyable because we have the opportunity to kind of trial stuff at like a small scale. Um, last year we had a chef ask us to grow some like different types of paste tomatoes, um, you know, uh, like an herb, an Italian like wild mint. So,
Okay.
we trialed that out and like got some out. Um, and I think there's some understanding when things like maybe don't produce as well or um, don't grow at all. But at least you tried it,
Right.
and I think they respect that. But yeah, that happens, but not too often.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Um,
chefs are usually good with what like you're growing. They kind of let the farmers do their job, and they just kind of work with what you got.
that makes sense. That makes sense. So stay in your own lane. They cook, they don't
Right,
grow it. So
right.
stay in your lane. Let me do
Yeah,
this and you cook.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. Uh, so when you started out with this farm, right? What was, I don't know, like your dream or your goal? And now that you're 2 years in, has anything changed with that?
Yeah, I didn't. When I first started, I was just kind of trying to absorb everything. Um, I think eventually my goal is to, have maybe my own piece of land, growing my own food, um, running my own like small farm. I really like the small farm scale, the kind of market garden, scale. Um, but even from starting to even till now, I'm still just trying to like absorb everything, and just build my knowledge
Okay.
on like how to do things. I feel like I'm still learning, a whole lot. A great example, one of the best things I've learned, 2021, working with this new farmer. Sweet potato slips always seem to get to us in rough shape, from like seed companies,
Right.
and they always seem to get here a little bit late. Um, so we kind of just took some sweet potatoes, some organic sweet potatoes, threw them in the ground, started our own slips,
Yep.
and you know, my thought was that you take the slips off, you root them in water for a little bit, then you can plant them. And yeah, this farmer, she was just like, no, you don't have to do all that. She's like, you can just snip them and throw them right in the soil.
Mm.
So we were just snipping like the slips right at soil level and putting them in the bed right next to it. No roots or anything, and they're doing fantastic. And it's like, it kind of blew my mind, and it was great that I learned that. But in the same like moment, I'm like, wow, I still have so much to learn doing
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, man.
Because I would have never thought about that at all.
I think like that willingness or that desire to always want to learn is great. Like never thinking you know it all, right?
Right. Yeah, I
And
think I think being humble is really an important quality in a farmer. As
yeah,
you're going to make a lot of mistakes, going to have a lot of failures, um, but always being willing to like accept that you might not know it all, and that you can always improve. You know, that really helps you become better.
True. I agree. Hey, so you keep saying like a small garden, a market garden. What acreage, what size do you cap off and stop calling it a small garden?
I I think when you're having to pull out the track, you know, when you're having
Hmm.
to buy a tractor, I
Okay.
think I think you're no longer a market garden. And I think that can vary. You know, we use a push behind BCS tractor
Yeah.
to do like bed flip, but you know, for the most part, we do everything by hand with hand tools. Sometimes, you know, we have a permanent bed system, you know, and every once in a while we'll take a rotary plow uh, hooked up to the BCS, kick dirt back on top of those beds. But that could certainly be done with a shovel, and it would
Hmm.
obviously take a lot longer. Um, but everything at the farm can be done by hand. It's not required to have a tractor.
Okay.
And then, you know, I think once you get to the point where you have to have the tractor to do the work, you're probably not able to do that on like a market gardening scale, you know.
True. So earlier you said that the area is like three quarters of an acre for fruit and then three-quarters for veg. What kind of fruits are you guys growing out there?
So it's kind of a mix of fruit trees. There's pomegranates, figs, peaches, citrus, and then there's blueberries and blackberries.
Okay.
Everything is kind of still really young. So this year will be the first year we actually like kind of have some fruit. The blackberries are producing right now,
Mhm.
um, and they're fantastic. You know, we kind of had somebody build us a trellis system, and we trellised them up this year, and they did really well. And then we'll probably have figs. You know, but everything else is maybe like a year off
Okay.
before it's really producing food. Um, but I also can't say that I'm a super experienced like fruit tree, you know, farmer or berry farmer.
Okay.
Just kind of also learning as I go. Um, you know, this was my first year, like, you know, trellising berries up and picking berries and taking care of that kind of crop. So, um, still, I learned a lot, and yeah, I'll just continue to get better at growing fruit too, which is
True.
kind of hard to find here in Houston unless you're growing your own. If you go to a farmer's market, you know, we've got like a berry guy, you know, we got like
Hmm.
a couple people doing citrus. It's kind of tough to find fruit here.
I
Um,
agree. I've noticed that myself.
yeah, so you know, I mean, to me that says like it's difficult to do,
Yeah, if everybody's not doing
especially
it.
in this area, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
like that. When I think about that, I'm like, oh, okay, it must be a little bit harder than just growing some vegetables, you know, growing, taking care of perennial crops like that.
Yeah.
Can it's a different type of farming.
I've killed my fair share of peach trees and apple trees, man, trying to grow them and blueberry bushes. I've
Yeah,
killed for the I don't know how many years ago I was buying them every year and they would die. Yeah. So
yeah. Blueberries are tough. You know, that's one I still haven't figured out as well. Ours are still hanging on out there, but you know, I still got work to figure out how to get them really productive.
yeah. Yeah, I got lucky one time I got to go to a blueberry
Yeah.
farm out in East Texas. Man, I don't even know if it's considered East Texas, like an hour or so east of here. And just to see how the bushes are supposed to look, right? And then when they're filled with berries, it was pretty
Right.
cool.
Right.
And then I look
right.
at them and I'm like, man, mine don't look like that, man.
right. It's like, what are y'all doing? What are
Yeah,
y'all doing to get this? To get
yeah.
actual food off of these plants?
Like tell me. And then they don't want to tell me. They're like, oh man, we have it's just some
right.
secrets. I'm like, I'm out here, man.
right.
Give me a secret or two. I'm not gonna go and sell your
Right.
secrets.
Right. Yeah. I just want to grow my own food.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I I feel like that's a good segue. I really, farming, gardening is kind of weird. In the information like portion of it, people like to kind of hold on to like this knowledge, and it's kind of like just share that. Like we should all be learning how to grow food. Let's not hold on to that or try to make people pay for that kind of knowledge. Like
Yeah,
let's
man. Like
just spread it.
that really bothers me, the whole like, especially with the internet age right now, and everybody's like, buy my course, buy my class. It's like,
Right.
you want to learn how to grow food, buy my course. And it's like, come on, man, just tell them. Just tell them. You don't
Right.
have to pay for it.
Right. Because I think, honestly, the people that are really going to want to grow the food are going to try and figure that out anyways.
Yeah, they're not gonna pay you.
Right.
They're gonna see
Right.
$29.95 and say, nah, man, I could buy a few bags of soil and enough seeds to grow
Right.
for a season. I'm not paying you.
Yeah. I think, I don't know, you kind of hope that growers, farmers, gardeners everywhere, that they want other people to do that as well and grow their own food and find the joy in doing that and feeding themselves or feeding themselves and other people. So yeah, don't want to get too far down that rabbit hole, but
I'm,
yeah,
I agree with you.
I'm with you. I'm
I
with you.
agree
I
with you,
think
man.
that kind of knowledge should just be shared. If you
Yep,
have it, share it.
yep. And quit trying to sell it to people.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, I agree with that.
and people who are buying it, quit buying it, and then they'll stop selling it. That's what I should say.
Right.
Everybody stop buying these courses, all right? Just go buy
Right.
some dirt and try it yourself. That's the only way to really
Right.
do it.
Right. Yeah. And I think like, you know, again, like following you, I've listened to some of your previous podcasts, and you know, I when you interact with other people, on your podcast, or if you're featured on a podcast, I've listened to some of those. I think that's what everyone enjoys about you, is that you are just putting that information out there,
It's free. It was
and
given to me for
it's
free.
free. Right.
So
And
how
I
can I
think,
charge you?
right, that that's so enjoyable. That means so much more to people than paying for a little bit of information. Sharing it, the connection, and like, yeah, just giving that knowledge is, that's worth that's worth everything right there.
Yeah, man, I feel like if you're trying to do something to get rich or to make a lot of money, I don't know that selling gardening advice is really going to
Right.
put a lot of money in your pockets.
Right. Yeah.
so
No. Exactly.
so like that's my thought process behind it is
Yep.
I'm not going to get rich charging you for
Right.
information on tomatoes, right? So
Right.
come get this information, we can all grow, and then we can all change the world if we get enough people wanting to
Right.
grow or searching for information about growing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Definitely. I totally agree with it.
yeah. So why can't we have more Jordan ranches, man? Why can't we have more farms incorporated into neighborhoods?
I think I I don't know, but I also think that it's kind of a new thing.
Yeah.
I'd certainly like never heard of a farm being offered as an amenity in a subdivision before. I started working with this company, and like I don't know, like even nationwide, that this is happening. Often happening on a large scale, or even happening in a lot of states.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's new. I think it'll take a little while to grasp, for people to really want. But hopefully it does. Hopefully, this is something that people want and appreciate. And, you know, I see people every day at the farm, and they're super happy it's there. I
Yeah.
mean, it's enjoyable not to just like look at, but talk to people that are growing food that you're eating, and just getting kind of like, again, like an education just through the farm being there. Whether that's like anything from some gardening tips or farming tips that we can give them to just tasting a fully ripe tomato in season, and changing your flavor, your palate, knowing like what an actual tomato is supposed to taste like.
Yeah.
I think especially it's great for the kids. We have kids that come by, and we can give them like a sample of anything really, carrot, tomato, and then they're, the parents are coming back next week with them again, and they're like, hey, my kid likes tomatoes now.
Yeah.
My kid likes this vegetable now, and that's really fantastic. It's really great for, youth to kind of like grow up seeing food being grown around them and not to have so much disconnect from that.
Yeah, man, that's one thing I really try to that's one thing I really just do with my kids, right? Because when I was younger, I got to see and experience food growing around me. And it probably is the reason why I'm here doing this podcast now. But I just want my kids to have that same thing because I know I don't know, it's just great. It's a great experience. It changes your whole perception on life.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And I think that's like, farming, gardening is not, it shouldn't be difficult things to like grasp,
No.
it's not calculus, I kids can learn how to do this stuff.
Yeah.
And then it's knowledge they always have, and it should be knowledge that we always have. Should be something that's passed down to us from our parents or from someone in our community that does it. So,
yep.
yeah, it's great, and that's definitely one of the biggest benefits of my job, for sure.
So you were talking about how you don't know that there are many Agrihoods nationwide, and I think prior to going out to Jordan Ranch, the only time I had ever heard of an Agrihood was, I think it was Detroit or somewhere in Michigan, somewhere around Detroit. That was the only example that I had ever heard of it. I didn't know that. I'm glad they're doing it in Houston, but I didn't know that they were actually building these neighborhoods kind of centered around farming.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's rare to hear about.
Yeah.
There's just not many, people doing it. There's a pool in every neighborhood.
Yeah.
But
And multiple parks with the
right,
same playground set, right?
right. Yeah, it's just I don't know. I'm personally not the person, kind of working on selling that to developers or to people who want to live in those things. That's kind of what my bosses do. But yeah, I think they're doing a good job at it, and like I know that they're always kind of talking about like the possibilities of doing that in like other states, doing it more in Texas. So hopefully we see more of those places starting to pop up.
Yeah, I want to get it from uh, a little bit out west, outside of Houston. I want to get it to start working its way inside of the city. I feel like we have, especially the city owns so many lots, right? I don't understand why we can't kind of take your concept, what you're doing out there in Jordan Ranch, and just adapt it to fit here inside the loop.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know personally what all they're working on, but Finca, I think here is like trying to lead that charge of like more urban like farming. And I think Tommy there is fantastic.
Man,
To kind of lead that, but yeah, outside of just like community garden space,
yes,
there's really not much, and there's very few of those even.
yes.
So, but yeah, I mean, that would be great. It would be great if there was, I don't know what it takes exactly to get a big enough group within a community to decide to want to have that available, for their area.
Yeah, I don't
But
know either, but
but
whatever it takes.
I think it's worth it.
Yeah, whatever it
I think
takes,
it's
I
worth
need to
every
figure
penny
it
to
out.
do
I
it.
got to figure it out, man, because I just feel like there's certain neighborhoods where being able to walk out and see a cool farm or to see multiple lots within a neighborhood could kind of change your perception on life.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. I think having that space available to you has so many positive benefits. If you could spend your time at the farm learning something, volunteering, interacting with the farmers, I think that's just like so beneficial, compared to something else that you could be doing that's maybe not as positive for you. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, because it teaches you lifelong skills,
Yes.
and that's something that you always have. And I think everyone's craving that. I think everyone's craving to learn something that they'll always have and that will benefit them. And growing food is certainly one of those things.
Because you can do it forever and you can do it anywhere.
Right.
All right. So now that you've been in here, been doing this about 2 years, what do you wish you knew going into this that you know now?
Hmm. You know, I knew really like nothing going
Okay.
into this.
Okay.
So almost everything, but just I think the sheer amount of work, I think is the obvious answer to this question. It just takes so much. It's so much to farm. It's constantly moving back and forth, picking things up, weeding, having like a running list moving in your head at all times. It really just, you're encapsulated when you're farming. But it takes a little bit of time and trial and error to get to that, to understand that that's what you need to farm. So yeah, I think if I maybe had like a heads up where it's like, okay, you're going to need to know how to do all these things and then, adjust depending on all the, weather or, what have you, day to day to day. Just kind of be expecting to have to switch it up every day.
Right.
I think that would have been good information to know. Because sometimes I have a plan and I go to work and I want to achieve something and I get there and conditions aren't right to do that, and so you just have to change. You have to be like, well, I have to wait for conditions to be right to do that task, so I'm going to have to move on to something else. There's always work to be done on the farm, so you just have to let things go and move on to something else and then come back to it when it's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I see, I know that your IG name, your Instagram name is Farm and Forage. So do you spend a lot of time foraging? And if you do, what are you able to find here in Houston?
So since farming, I've been doing less foraging, just because
Okay.
farming takes up a lot of time. But previous to that, it was a really big hobby of mine, still is, when I can get out. As I went yesterday. Really, it kind of started, I was working in a restaurant, washing dishes. And, it was like kind of also doing some cooking. And, the chef there had been using or had used previously wild mushrooms, and like other wild foods. And he just kind of like proposed the like opportunity to the whole like back of house staff. He was like, hey, if anybody wants to like learn how to forage stuff, I'll buy it from you. And so I was like, okay, well, extra cash in my pocket. So, I put a little money up front and bought some field guides and, taught myself. And it ended up becoming like a fun hobby for me and, my now wife. And we would just go out and look for stuff and learn about the trees and bring our books with us and like try to find stuff. So mostly we know wild mushrooms, like edible mushrooms, culinary purposes. But along the way, we've learned, some edible like flowers and plants and berries and greens and, there's edible alliums out there. So
Okay.
yeah, it's fun. It's a really fun hobby, but it's also free food. And it's really delicious food. Um, there's all kinds of stuff to find. We're pretty diverse here in Houston as far as like the amount of wild food we have available to us. Um, Sometimes we're not always like super abundant due to like either too much rain or no rain. We have some drastic like we can be underwater or we can not have water for like a month, no rain for like a month. So that kind of determines like what you can find, especially as far as mushrooms go. But when the conditions are right, there's a lot of stuff that's available, and it really only takes purchasing like a field guide and going out there and teaching yourself how to
Okay.
do it.
I got a buddy. He lives in, I want to say Idaho, but it might not be Idaho. And he's big on foraging, man. I never actually went out with him, but I just remember we had another mutual friend who used to live in California, and we would go and we would all meet up there. And I remember him just walking off into the woods with big like, I don't know, let's call them paper bags. And he would come back and the bag would be halfway full, like a grocery store bag. And he
Right.
would come back with a bag full of mushrooms. And he was like, no, you can eat these. And I remember being like, man, I don't know about those mushrooms. You can't just go pick wild mushrooms, man. You're gonna kill us all. He was like, no, this is what I do, man. I host classes. People come to Idaho and I take them out foraging. So I just love the idea of foraging. I never got into it, but want to.
Yeah, no, I think it really goes along with like with gardening, with being around food.
Mm-hmm.
It's once you learn what's edible and what's not, it's pretty distinctive, and it's no different. It's going out there and like picking something that you can eat. You might have to wash a little more dirt off of it. You may have to like clean it up a little bit more because you weren't kind of procuring the area that it's growing in, but it's food nonetheless, and it's really tasty stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the mushrooms that you can find out in, growing wild, far superior in flavor to like anything you can get at the grocery store, which is essentially all the same mushroom, just different sizes.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's fun. I think it's worth the time to teach yourself, and it's kind of addictive, you go out there and you just keep like looking for it. You keep hunting and you're trying to fill up your bag or your basket, and it feels like you're finding treasure. It's a really fun. It's a really fun hobby.
Yeah, I bet, man. I like I say, you have motivated me to go on Amazon and buy a field guide when this is over. And then I'm going to go out to some random areas and just start looking for mushrooms next time it rains.
Yeah. Yeah. Instagram was really helpful too. If you just put in like hashtag foraging or forager or mushrooms, you find these people who are extremely skilled at finding the mushrooms in their area, and most of them are so willing to like share this knowledge with you. And it's just kind of like find your local field guide on mushrooms or plants or wildflowers or berries, and take it out walking with you and look through stuff and figure out what trees are growing and figure out what plants are growing. And
Right.
you learn so much just by observing and then you're out walking and you're just constantly kind of looking, you're just, you switch into this different mindset where you're like looking for stuff on the ground to eat, it's kind of strange, but it's, it becomes fun, and it makes you feel, knowledgeable and more connected as well.
Okay. I got a couple more questions for you, man. I know you're an
Yeah.
actual farmer, so I can't take up too much more of your time. Tips or advice for anybody looking to start a farm or get into farming?
Yeah. I think the biggest tip is, decide if it's a right fit for you. I have seen people kind of like come and go where they think it's like a passion, and it's a little more intensive than you think. You know, make sure you like being like dirty, you like getting bit by bugs all day. You really like to sweat.
Yeah.
Move stuff. So I think one of the biggest things also to add to this is doing like a monotonous task, but finding the joy in that. Can you be on your, hands and knees? Can you be bent over picking weeds in a bed for hours on end, but then like be able to look back behind you where you've been weeding and really appreciate all the work that you've done? If you're a person that can really enjoy that, then I think farming, gardening can be for you.
That was great.
Because if you're weeding and you're starting to have this thought in your head where you're like, this is not worth it, and it may not be worth it to really get into farming and gardening, because it is worth it, and it takes a lot of time, and it's the same repetitive task, but that is farming, that is gardening.
Right.
And you have to be able to really appreciate doing those things over and over and over again.
Okay. Now, this is a new section I just added to the podcast. I call it the rapid fire section. I just come up with random questions off the top of my head and just ask you.
Yeah, go for it.
Boom. What is your favorite, if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, every meal, what would it be? Yeah.
I think it would have to be broad curry.
Okay.
Just because like curry can be anything really, and it has delicious sauce, and you're eating it with a grain. I think curry's the right choice there.
I like that answer. I really like that answer because I love everything curry. Do you have a favorite drink, like not alcoholic or alcoholic? I don't care.
Oh man, I'm an iced coffee person.
Iced coffee. Okay.
All day, every day. I'm drinking iced coffee.
Okay. What is your favorite thing to grow and your least favorite thing to grow?
All right, my favorite thing to grow is carrots.
Okay.
I love carrots. Yeah, definitely carrots. My least favorite, I hate to say it because it does so well here, but it's got to be okra. It doesn't come from the flavor of okra. I love okra. Grew up eating okra. I enjoy it. I eat it when it's in season. It's the picking okra, and I pick so much okra, and I kind of dread it when it's we have so much of it, and you're like, you got to pick it every day. But that's the only reason why. I don't dislike the taste of okra.
Okay.
It's the amount of work that goes into okra.
So we're coming up on your favorite season then, right? It's about to be okra season.
Oh yeah, we've got a couple rows at the farm, and we've got more in the greenhouse.
Oh man.
But you have to grow it. As a farmer here, you have to grow it. It's such a sustainable food. It produces so well. There's so many uses for it. Yeah, I mean, it's great. It's a great crop. It's just, ooh, it gets real labor intensive when you have a whole lot of it.
Yeah, I know. I don't have a farm, so I know from like a smaller scale, just having more than one okra plant in my backyard is overkill, right? And
Yeah,
then because once I have more than one, I'll only pick from one, and then the other one I just kind of forget about it and let it do its thing, and then
right.
so I feel your pain when you're like, man, I just don't want to have to harvest that okra.
Right. Yeah, and then it feels like I think a lot of it is it feels like a waste if you let it go too far because you're
Yes.
like, oh man, this is so tough. I can't do anything with it. I didn't pick it. And I think that's where most of it stems from. Like I hate letting it go to waste, but picking it every day is kind of intense
Yeah.
to do.
Understood. All right, man. So those are my last questions. That's it. If you tell everybody where they can get in contact you or where they can find you on Instagram or wherever.
Yeah. Yeah. You can find me on Instagram, farm_and_forage. I'm mostly just posting vegetables from the farm. If I find some stuff foraging, I post that too. And yeah, reach out to me there if you're local and you want to like come visit the farm stand when we got stuff. We're always trying like new, unique things, so it's always exciting to come out, get some new tastes and flavors, and yeah.
Cool. All right, man. So that's it. And like I said, I know you're a real farmer, so I guess get back in the
Yeah,
fields, man.
gotta get back to it.
Cool, man. Thank
Yeah, it
you.
was really good. It was really good talking to you.
Yeah, man. Have a
See you
great day.
soon.
Before I let you go, I need you to do more than one thing. First, I need you to like, comment, subscribe to the podcast. Second, I need you to tell a friend or two about the show if you enjoyed it. And if you have anybody you think I need to talk to, I should interview, send the name over, put it in the comments, or send me an email, igrow@BigCityGardener. And check me out, man, on Instagram and on all social media platforms, Big City Gardener. We out. Oh, almost forgot. Just grow it.